Minecraft is the most popular video game of all time. And at the head of it all is Steve, a guy who's just trying to mine some blocks, beat some mobs, and survive to see another day. And along the way, well, he kinda just becomes a little bit godlike. So today, well, we're gonna put that to the test by throwing Minecraft Steve up against everyone's favorite wannabe god and battle arena punching bag, Homelander. So who's coming out on top here? Who's going to win it all? Let's get into it. Homelander, a man who appointed himself to be the world's greatest hero and essentially a god, but he's so much more of a devil. He's a psychopath, is constantly just being the absolute worst hero, and truly has no problem with killing absolutely anybody. But the real question is just exactly how strong is this guy? Well, he's quite literally the strongest man in the world and has never met anyone who's been his physical equal. And I guess you could argue that Soldier Boy exists, but I don't even know if Soldier Boy is his true equal. Sure, Soldier Boy can give Homelander a good fight, but Homelander said it himself.
You're just a cheap knockoff.
Oh, no. I'm the upgrade.
Soldier Boy can injure him, can blow him up with those explosions that would also theoretically depower him, but in a straight up fight, Homelander is still winning that one. He was still winning that one. He truly is the strongest hero out of the bunch and the strongest man alive. And while Homelander's fights in the past haven't really been the most impressive, the most that you can honestly say for them is city block level. There's an argument that Homelander is actually city busting at the very least. A guidebook has said before that Homelander has the power to level a city in minutes, and Homelander himself threatened to wipe out New York, Des Moines, and Modesta just for fun. So take it for what you will. We've never actually seen it, but it's definitely hinting that Homelander is strong enough to straight up destroy cities if he really wanted to. Bottom line, Homelander's pretty strong. And so if that's how strong Homelander is, well, how tough is he? That's a little bit more up in the air. Not really because he's not durable, but just because it's hard to say that he's ever really had his durability tested before. He's bulletproof, was unscathed by a bus and rubble crashing down on top of him, but the guy is obviously intended to be invincible. It was said that if Homelander ever turned against America or turned against Vought, they'd have no way to take him down. It was also said that there isn't a weapon on Earth that they haven't thrown at him. They all failed. Obviously, this is including nukes. So just from those statements, Homelander is incredibly tough. But of course, there are things that can injure him. Soldier Boy was able to give him bruises with his punches. Queen Maeve even broke his nose with a hit. At best, you can scale Homelander up to multi-city block in terms of durability, considering that he did survive a multi-city block explosion at the chemical plant. Honestly, he's probably way tougher than this because, well, he did survive it and survived it relatively unscathed for the most part. And another thing is, just like Homelander doesn't have a ton of durability feats, doesn't really have a ton of speed feats. I mean, in fact, I don't think we've ever even seen Homelander's speed in a fight, except maybe like once or twice. That being said, though, he really is pretty fast when he's just flying around. He's regularly flown at Mach speeds, even reached up to Mach 5 while saving Butcher from that C4 explosion, which is looking like his top speed. Instead, while Homelander does have all these incredible powers, and sometimes he'll have to use them in a fight, more often than not, Homelander is just completely spamming his heat vision all over the place. And for the most part, well, it really is effective. He can easily slice through flesh and bone, just kill people with one glance. He can also use it against other supes and send them flying backwards. All in all, while Homelander does get clowned on quite a bit, he actually is pretty powerful and is easily the most powerful being in the boys' universe.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
I am Steve.
Minecraft, a simple sandbox survival game, is the single most successful video game in history, selling almost 240 million copies worldwide. While the lore is a bit vague, here's what we know. Long ago, an ancient race of builders and explorers thrived. They built monuments in the ocean, fortresses in other dimensions, even underground cities and strongholds. However, now they're all gone, with their descendants left behind to survive and maybe piece together what happened. Among them is a man named Steve. So, Steve is frankly a very, very hard man to scale. Because, on one hand, there is an argument that he's just a regular guy out there in the wilderness trying to survive. And on the other hand, well, Steve can get a little bit ridiculous. When it comes to physicality, at the lowest end of Steve's strength, well, you can say that he's able to run and jump in full armor while also carrying solid blocks of gold, making him at least class 100. And that's bare minimum, because you can also include Steve's inventory, where he can hold up to 2,300 gold blocks, or even netherite, the heaviest block in Minecraft. So basically, you could put Steve anywhere up to 10 billion pounds, or the entirety of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And that's just base level for him. Although there also is an argument that he's not actually physically carrying all of this, and the inventory bag works more like a separate hammer space. Steve's also really tough though, especially when he's wearing armor and got his shield. Like with the armor, well, Steve can survive attacks from both the Ender Dragon and the Wither, and both of them are able to break blocks with their attacks that can no-sell a charged creeper explosion, which in turn can destroy 500 cubic meters of rock. So basically, city block level explosions. And the shield just adds to that even more. It's also very, very hard to actually kill Steve when you do injure him, because Steve can just respawn. While that might just seem like a simple gameplay mechanic, every video game character comes back after they die. For Steve, it seems more legit, because not only is it brought up in official game media, but you also have in-game items like the respawn anchor or the recovery compass. Steve just legit respawns when he dies. And Steve is actually surprisingly fast, too, fast enough to outrun all sorts of enemies, dodge arrows that are whizzing towards him. But probably most impressive, Steve can perceive sound waves around him and actually fight in tandem with these sound waves, with the speed of sound being about 760 miles per hour. And of course, you can argue that Steve can attack even faster than this, mostly because he shoots arrows himself or even shoots out lightning bolts with his enchantments. Steve's also able to carry around all sorts of weapons, blocks, enchantments, basically everything you can think of. He's got weapons like swords, bow and arrows, or crossbows. That's really just the tip of the iceberg. He can teleport using the Ender Pearl. The Totem of Undying will do just what it sounds like, save Steve from dying. And you can create portals to the Nether, a hellish dimension full of monsters. He's got potions that can restore his health or make him stronger or faster, or other potions that make enemies weaker and slower. Basically, Steve might just look like a bunch of blocks, but he's secretly one of the more powerful video game characters out there. So, who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, there are basically two ways to look at this fight: Survival Steve and Creative Steve. If you want to go the Creative Steve route, well, let's just say that he absolutely dominates the fight. For starters, well, he can't be killed, and he can quite literally kill anything in the game with the kill command. So that one's pretty simple. Creative Steve would crush. So let's focus on Survival Steve instead, while still assuming that Steve has access to everything in Minecraft that could be helpful in fighting someone like Homelander. Now, if that's the case, well, again, I think Steve can kinda dominate, but only Steve at his best. For starters, good argument that Steve is stronger than Homelander, if you're assuming that his inventory is him actually carrying it, which for this video we will be. Homelander at best scales above characters like Stormfront and Soldier Boy, who we know can lift anything up to a full 747, which could come in at 450 tons, and Homelander should be able to lift that and more. Still pales in comparison to the man, the myth, the legend, Steve. Because with the inventory mechanic, well, Steve is lifting up to 5 million tons, maybe even more if you really scale it. So Steve is exponentially stronger than Homelander. He can also make himself durable enough to survive all of Homelander's attacks, putting on netherite armor that's got protection for enchantments on it means that Homelander isn't going to be able to injure him whatsoever. Add on the curse of binding means that Homelander can't take the armor off, and throw on fire protection enchantments so Homelander can't just spam his heat vision and try and hurt Steve that way. Steve even has ways to cancel out fall damage or breathe underwater, so Homelander can't try and hurt him that way. Plus, passive regeneration buffs from potions, while also adding in thorns or other potions to make sure that Homelander injures himself every time he attacks Steve. And even if Homelander does manage to injure or even kill Steve, nothing is stopping him from instantly respawning, just picking right back up where he left off. Basically, there's really not much that Homelander can actually do to injure Steve, all while Steve is more than strong enough to rip Homelander in half with his sword. I mean, come on now, if Queen Maeve can injure Homelander, Steve with netherite swords definitely can. And Homelander is kinda just dumb enough to fly in there and let it happen as he tries to fight hand to hand. Homelander can defeat a lot of people in Minecraft, and he could definitely beat an unprepared Steve. But if Steve really wanted to put Homelander down, well, absolutely nothing is stopping that from happening. Steve wins.